Jungle.
Welcome to the Dawg House, your Cleveland Browns Insider podcast. I'm Andy McNamara, alongside Browns Insider from WKYC Sports in Cleveland, Matt Florjancic. So much to get to today. The preseason is finally over. The regular season.
Goodness.
Oh, hallelujah. Can I get an amen? Yes. It's done. It is over. The Browns got out of it. They got beat by Chicago. Who cares about the final score? But the question's now. The roster has to be cut down by Saturday at 4 p.m. Ray Farmer's suspension, 4 games for the texting scandal, Textgate, from last season, begins Monday at 12:01 a.m., so Labor Day. Terrell Pryor, he played last night. Dwayne Bowe's a conversation piece. Will he make the roster? And the backup QB situation, Johnny, he's nursing that elbow, or Thaddeus Lewis. So much to get to. And as always, we want to hear from you on Twitter at AndyMC81, at Matt Florjancic. Email the DawgHouseShow at gmail.com, Dawghouse, DAWG. So, Matt, with that preseason, again, the final score, who cares? But I want to start with the Ray Farmer suspension coming up because they got to make those cuts down to the 53-man roster. Have to do it by 4 p.m., and then there's always guys who get released a little later and some roster shuffling. So for the Browns, when Farmer goes, who do you see, I guess, handling the GM functions on an interim basis?
It's got to be Bill Kuharich. He's the most experienced and tenured personnel member of the department that the Browns have right now, and he's an executive assistant, and he's more than qualified to do it. In fact, there was some speculation in the media room that this would be an interim basis, but it'll be a trial basis to see how it works if the season goes south and they decide to blow up the front office again and send Farmer on his merry way, that a guy like Kuharich could be right in the middle of the thick of things when it comes to if they have to replace the GM on a full-time basis. So there's no question it's going to be him who's going to handle the bulk of the work. And with that, I think the Browns are in pretty capable hands. He's a very experienced guy, and I'm sure he and Mike Pettin will be on a similar page when it comes to how they want to build their roster.
Well, Matt, so when Ray Farmer has his 4-week vacation, so to speak, I guess, the roster will be set. And the good news from last night is that there were no major injuries at all. Yes, thank goodness. No major injury. That's always the question mark with that last preseason game. How healthy can you get out of the game? Thaddeus Lewis played a whole bunch. Pat Devlin at the end, the emergency arm with Johnny being out. Now, there were a couple of roster guys who had to prove it. They were on prove-it situations. Let's start. Number 1, Terrell Pryor, who could be, as you said on the last show, an emergency quarterback. Took some snaps out of shotgun for the read option. What did you think of Pryor last night?
It was nice to see him finally get out on the field, and man, does he look like a physical specimen when he does. He really does look the part. Taking that out of the equation, though, I didn't see a whole lot of, obviously, the catching because he didn't make any, but he showed that he could still run the ball, and he glides very easily, even for a guy on a bad hammy. And he also showed a penchant for getting in there and throwing some blocks, both on offense and special teams as a personal protector. I like seeing him get physical, and he darn sure has the body type to get physical. But with wide receivers, you never know if that commitment was there. Well, Terrell's commitment wasn't lacking last night at all. He was there. He was willing to get hands on people. And when a 6'4", 225-pound man gets his hands on you, you're going to go pretty much where he wants you to go. So that's a good sign, and I think it was just finally nice to see what he could do when he got out on the field. Catching the ball, to me, really isn't as big a deal as running routes and seeing how he handles blocking on plays where he knows the ball isn't going to come to him. That's where I think he had to show the most, because I think the catching part of it is actually, and this sounds crazy because it's probably the most important part of a wide receiver's job, but it's also the easiest part of the job because you're used to catching footballs. Even as a quarterback, he's used to catching passes back and forth during throwing drills. So that part I wasn't as worried about. I wanted to see how he could block and how he could move and how he could run routes. And It's still going to be a project. It's a work in progress. But he showed some things that he can handle the responsibilities of the job. And I thought that was a positive first step.
Well, here's what I wanted to see Terrell Pryor actually, catch a football and, as you said, run the routes. Because my fear is I hearken back not too long ago to another physical specimen who, if you just looked at him, wow, this is a football player, in Greg Little, who had oven mitts on all the time, could not catch a ball. He had cement fingers. That's why I wanted to see Pryor. All right, how are you running the routes? I was impressed like you as far as the special teams and the mobility, certainly very quick. That really just takes him back to what he was doing at quarterback, though, when, hey, snap the ball and either one look or run. But can he catch the ball? Can he go up when he's going over the middle and he hears footsteps? Does he get the old alligator arms in, the T-Rex arms, or can he make a catch? I was hoping to see at least one situation like that from last night. I guess we're going to have to wait to the regular season because ultimately, Matt, like they need this guy to be a red zone target at the very least with that size.
Oh, 100% for sure. You look at the rest of the wide receivers, and they really don't have a red zone target other than the tight ends because a lot of their wide receivers are on the smaller side, and they know that a Taylor Gabriel and an Andrew Hawkins aren't going to be winning jump balls. Can they run nice out routes and maybe sneak past the defender? Sure, but you can't rely on that. You have to have a big-time target, and you have to have a guy that can go catch the football. And Terrell Pryor definitely has all the physical tools to be that guy. Whether or not he actually gets the chance, I don't know, but having 6'4", a target to throw to sure beats throwing the 5'6" every day. I mean, it's a nice target, and you know he can jump and outleap a 5'11" defender to catch the football.
You're listening to the Dawg House, your Cleveland Browns Insider podcast. I'm Andy McNamara alongside Browns Insider Matt Fleur-Jansen from WKYC Sports in Cleveland. And it was interesting when you watched the broadcast last night. Another roster move, whether he was going to make it, whether he wasn't going to make it, was Dwayne Bowe. And for the cash that Dwayne Bowe was getting paid, you'd expect this to be a non-issue. But on the TV broadcast last night, Solomon Wilcott said, hey, he's got to play well tonight to make the roster spot. Nathan Zagura from the sideline and the Browns Daily Show was saying it's not an issue. He is on the lineup. And it's a little concerning to me, Matt, because from Bo's comments, he's like, yeah, I'm a pro. I step up. I make big plays when it counts. Well, you didn't last year, and you've been steadily declining when it comes to explosiveness and when it comes to playmaking ability. From Dwayne Bowe, he played a lot of time yesterday, but didn't really do that much. What were your thoughts on him?
I'm not overly impressed with anything that he did in the training camp or the preseason.
No.
I listened to what he said when he met with the media members last week when he talked about, missing practice because of a hamstring. It basically sounded like he said, well, I took my time with it because I'm a veteran and I didn't have to be out there. That's basically the message that I took from it was he thinks he's good. And why wouldn't you? You're getting paid almost $10 million in guaranteed money whether you make the roster or not. So I guess you're feeling pretty good about yourself and feeling good about the body of work that you put out there. I wouldn't be as confident if I was him heading into today. I don't think he did enough to warrant making the roster. I think if people will say, well, how could that be that you would put Terrell Pryor on the roster but not Dwayne Bowe? And the simple fact is Bowe is on the wrong side of 30. He has his best days are clearly behind him. Last year was not an aberration. I think that's more of what you can expect. And secondly, he's also shown a disregard for the game in terms of whether or not he can actually be out there. This is his 9th year in the league, and all of a sudden he pulls his first hamstring when it seems like everybody else on the roster had hamstring pulls too. It's sketchy to me at best, and I really don't know that you can rely on him. And then I hear his post-game comments yesterday where he talks about being a leader and playing into the third quarter, the 4th preseason game, and showing the young guys that, hey, if I'm out here and I'm a 10-year veteran, you can be out here and you can be running around and making plays. The time for calling yourself a leader long since passed, and you're not a leader if you stay out of practice just because you don't want to practice.
Yeah, the only reason he was playing in the 4th preseason game is because he wasn't available the entire preseason. That's a lot different than someone who's played and doesn't have to at this point. Now, Matt, you wrote a great article released earlier this morning. We're recording this on Friday ahead of the 53-man final roster that has to be set. Cuts 4 p.m. on Saturday. You wrote Browns mock depth chart. And as soon as I saw mock, I'm like, uh-oh. Matt's going draft route already. It's before the first.
Oh God, no. If anybody knows me, they know that the build up to the draft is like absolutely like my least favorite time of the year when it comes to football. So
I bet you want to jump on it.
Anything before I mock the draft. Trust me.
So now in this scenario, and by the way, check it out on WKYC.com under the sports section. Great read. You set up the mock draft for both sides of the ball. So for receivers, you have making it Andrew Hawkins, Taylor Gabriel, Josh Lenz, who I like and I thought balled out last night to make this roster. Marlon Moore, mainly a special teams guy. Brian Hartline, he's been great. Travis Benjamin, deep threat, and Terrell Pryor. The one notable cut and omission on that list is you have Dwayne Bowe getting cut. Now, is this based on what you think should happen or what you think the Browns will do?
It was a little bit of both, but on the offensive side, I lean towards what should happen, and on the defensive side, I lean towards what I think the Browns will actually do.
Okay.
I'm a big proponent of everybody on the offensive side that I put on the roster. Josh Lenz really deserves a spot. I was hesitant whether I was going to put him or Darius Jennings, but when Jennings had the fumble issue last night, I didn't see too many explosive plays, I gave the spot to Josh Lenz. I think they could slip Jennings onto the practice squad. I don't think that Lenz is able to be on the practice squad anymore because he's been around a long time in terms of years of service. I believe he's been spent 2 years on practice squad, so I don't think he's eligible for it, and that's why I put him on the 53 because he really did play well, and he showed up pretty much every day in camp. He showed up on the field during preseason games, and that's ultimately what you want out of your players, and that's why he's on the roster, and that's why Dwayne Bowe isn't, because I didn't see Dwayne Bowe show up hardly at all during training camp, and up until last night, not in the preseason at all.
No.
So that's where I went with it. I went with who I think would be the best players for the Browns at this point in time. And that's really, honestly, how I feel. I went with my heart and who I think will be the best for the team. And I don't think a guy like Dwayne Bowe, who calls himself a leader and then takes a 3-week vacation, is a leader or is a guy that should belong on an NFL roster.
Now, Matt, I 100% agree with you if what makes sense and what should be done with Dwayne Bowe. But I don't see any chance that with that money guaranteed, and that was one of Ray Farmer's premier free agent signings in him and Hartline, that he gets cut, because that gives even more egg on the face of Ray Farmer, whose draft picks the last couple of years have sucked for the most part, and now the free agent signing of Bowe. Like, if that gets cut, I just think he's digging his own grave there as far as you have to eat that much cash. So from a what will actually happen standpoint, I don't see that going down, but from, hey, if you're talking about just guys who earned it, hell yeah, give me a Josh Lenz over a entitled Dwayne Bowe any day.
Yeah, you're 100% right. This is totally what I believe should happen.
Yeah.
But for political reasons, that probably won't happen. And I could say the same thing about tight end too, because if you look at it, it's Gary Barnidge in my mind, number 1, Jim Dre number 2, and Bibbs number 3, and Rob Hauser getting cut. And Rob Hauser was another free agent signing, and I don't see Rob Hauser doing enough in training camp to make this roster. But, again, going back to the political thing, egg on face, that's another knock because you let Jordan Cameron walk and you went out and signed Rob Hauser to be Jordan Cameron's replacement, and he hardly ever showed up in camp. Every day we kept waiting for him to make a play, and it took till the last 2 days of camp for him to really stand out. And you can't do that if you want to be an impact player in this league.
Well, especially if, even at best, even if he is kept on for political reasons, he's going to be third on the depth chart. Like that's your replacement for a Pro Bowler in Jordan Cameron. Like, it's just, Matt, if this season, and fingers crossed, hey, that they get at least 7 wins, but if this season goes south, I could see Mike Pettin staying, Ray Farmer. Like, it's a lot easier for me to point to what Ray Farmer's done wrong to what Mike Pettin has done wrong, at least at this point in the season, because, oh man, like, there's so many question marks here with this roster. It's really quite baffling.
It's maddening when you think about all the draft picks. I mean, I've got several draft picks that Farmer's made in 2 years not making this roster right now.